always thought for some reason that if I was to get stretch marks, it would be with my first pregnancy, because that's the first time that my skin is stretching out so much. I mean, we have come a long, long way with C-section scars. I know it shouldn't bother me. I know it's my badge of honor for delivering my second baby, and it's just very new to me right now, and I'm getting used to it. I'm just being honest with you guys. I actually probably had too much epidural for my VBAC, where I will tell you guys all about that in a little bit. Hello and welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to talk about the differences between having a VBAC and a C-section. If you're new here, hi, my name is Talita. I am a mom of 2 boys, and I had my first pregnancy with an emergency C-section and my second with a successful VBAC. So I'm here to share my experience and the differences I felt were most important between the two. Before I get started, I just want to say that there is no right or wrong. My C-section experience and my VBAC experience were special in its own unique way. I think at the end of the day, all that matters is that you and your baby are healthy. So I just wanted to mention that before we got started. The first thing that comes to mind that is different between having a C-section and a VBAC is obviously how long it will take you to deliver the baby. I think this is a pretty obvious one, but I just wanted to start out with that because it is important to know. Obviously, a C-section, you're looking into, I mean, in my experience, it was about maybe 15 minutes or so. And with my VBAC, it took about 2.5 hours of pushing until I saw my precious baby. Of course, before the pushing, that was the prepping and everything else involved. So all in all, it takes a lot longer, especially if you have an induction date set for a C-section and you already know that you're going in and you're having that surgery done. It's just, the timing is obviously very different. Another major difference is, of course, the scar. You get a little bit of a scar on your stomach. It's so small, you hardly will notice it. I mean, we have come a long, long way with C-section scars. So I would not worry if you're going into having a C-section and you're concerned about having a big scar. It's really so tiny and nothing to really be concerned about. Now, obviously, if you have a VBAC, you don't have the scar. On a separate note, though, you can get other types of scars like stretch marks. With my first pregnancy, I had a C-section and I did not get stretch marks. I always thought for some reason that if I was to get stretch marks, it would be with my first pregnancy, because that's the first time that my skin is stretching out so much. So it would make sense for that to happen. But that wasn't the case for me. I actually got stretch marks with my second pregnancy, and I did gain less weight with my second pregnancy. I worked out more. I don't know what happened there. Sometimes it's just, there's nothing you can do. You just get it. And I think that was the case for me. And that is obviously considered a scar. It's not going to go away. It can fade with treatments and lotion, but it's there for good. And honestly, that bothers me just a slight bit more than my actual C-section scar. I know it shouldn't bother me. I know it's my badge of honor for delivering my second baby, and it's just very new to me right now, and I'm getting used to it, and I'm just being honest with you guys. Now let's talk about pain levels. I don't think I felt any pain with either of my births. My C-section and my VBAC, I didn't feel a lot of pain. What I did feel was a lot of pressure. And the reason why I didn't feel a lot of pain is because I had an epidural with my VBAC. So now I'm going to have an epidural. obviously you're going to feel the contraction pain and other pains that come along with not having the epidural. I chose to have an epidural. I actually probably had too much epidural for my VBAC, where I will tell you guys all about that in a little bit when we talk about the recovery differences. But I only felt pressure with both of them. So they were pretty similar as far as pain level wise. I will say I felt more pain with the VBAC initially because I had really, really bad contractions going into it. And with my C section, when my water broke, I felt almost no pain with my contractions for a very long time. So by the time I got the epidural, I was good. Like I didn't really go through a lot of pain. With my VBAC, my water also broke, but when it broke, immediately I felt level 10 pain with the contractions. And I needed to go to the hospital right away. So I felt that pain going into it, but as far as during the delivery period, I really didn't feel much pain at all, just a little bit of pressure. And again, of course, that's because my experience was with an epidural. I'm sure it's a very different experience if you're not having the epidural. Let's talk about recovery, because I know that's something a lot of people are curious about, the difference between recovering after a C-section versus a VBAC. Again, this is very unique to each person, how your pregnancy was, if you had any complications, how active you were, and just your health overall, I think plays a huge role, and also your delivery experience. So just keep that in mind. I will speak on my own experience. My experience with the recovery after the C-section was seamless. And I was pretty surprised by that, because everyone tells you that after having a C-section, you're going to have the worst recovery. It doesn't even compare with the recovery that you have after a natural birth or a VBAC. And I literally pushed for 3.5 hours and then had an emergency C-section. So it felt as though I almost had like the two types of birth in one. And you would think that I would have literally the worst recovery on the planet. And it honestly was so, so seamless. I didn't have this bad experience my first time going to the bathroom, for example, which I know a lot of us fear. I was like literally walking totally fine the next day. As soon as I left the hospital, I literally, first of all, I left the hospital, I walked to my car after leaving the hospital. I wasn't wheeled to my car or anything. I just walked out of the hospital. And since then, I walked around. Maybe that's not like what you should be doing after delivering a baby, but I literally felt well enough to walk. I got home, I was cooking, I was just after, I don't know, I want to say like a week or so. And I could have done this probably sooner, but I was literally taking walks with my newborn all around the neighborhood, and I was totally fine. Of course, I had all my friends reaching out to me like, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to be walking right now." But I felt okay enough, and I think you know yourself better than anyone. And I just knew I was fine, and I honestly just needed to get out of the house too and just get some fresh air. So that's my experience with the C-section. And I share this because I want you to go into it open-minded and knowing that honestly anything can happen. This was my experience, like I said initially, but it can be a good experience too. Just because you're having a C-section, it doesn't mean you're going to have a really terrible experience. So just wanted to throw that out there. And with that being said, after having my VBAC, my recovery was okay. But I want to say that actually my C-section recovery was better than my VBAC recovery in some ways. So I'll explain why. One, I had a lot of epidural with my VBAC because my contractions when I got to the hospital were so intense. And that after I got my first epidural, I've still felt the contractions like really badly. Like I felt them bad. And even the nurse could see how strong the contractions were coming in. And they asked me if I wanted more epidural, and I said, please, I need more epidural immediately because honestly the pain was so intense. And so they gave me epidural, but I think they gave me too much the second time around. If I was to do it again, I would have asked for just a little bit. I could have handled a little bit of pain. It was just a lot of pain, and I needed a little bit of that taken out so I could really be present and concentrate. But with that being said, the epidural had me swollen head to toe on my recovery. I mean, my hands were swollen, my feet were so swollen that it hurt. It hurt. Like my legs were swollen, literally my entire body. And I think that was the hardest part with my recovery because I felt it, for a while. I believe I was really swollen and feeling very uncomfortable for probably about 2 weeks. I would also say going to the bathroom was less pleasant after a VBAC than it was after a C-section, which makes sense, but just wanted to share that as well. Not that it was like super painful because again, they're gonna send you home with meds. With that being said, that wasn't very pleasant either with a VBAC, and I did get hemorrhoids during my delivery, and they were really bad. And again, I had them with my first, but it wasn't as bad as my second because I was pushing for 2.5 hours intensively with my VBAC. So I think they really it really triggered my hemorrhoids to the max. And again, it also led to a very unpleasant situation with having to go to the bathroom. So all those things combined kind of made my VBAC recovery a little more uncomfortable than my C-section recovery, if that makes sense. But I will say the delivery itself was very pleasant. I had a very positive VBAC experience. I actually made a video and shared that. If you guys are interested in watching, I'll link it below for you. But yeah, I was really surprised with the recovery. With all that being said, though, it really wasn't that bad. I was back to my normal self within after that two week period. It took me about 2 weeks, and I was good to go. I think it's just I was very lucky with my C-section recovery, and I felt good to go almost immediately. Whereas with my VBAC, it did take me a couple of weeks to kind of start to feeling like myself. Well, not feeling like myself again, but feeling like I can function normally for the most part again. So that's my experience with the VBAC versus the C-section recovery. Another difference I noticed with my VBAC versus C-section recovery is that I dropped more weight my second time around faster, which I have heard from my other mom friends that the same happened to them. So I wonder if this is kind of normal. I'm not sure. I would think for a couple of reasons this could be the case. And one being that you already have a baby. So, one, during your pregnancy, you don't really have the luxury to sit around, take a nap, be lazy, for lack of words here, and just relax. You don't have the time to do that. You're always running after your child or your toddler. And so you're really constantly moving around. And then, of course, once you have your newborn, nothing has changed. You still have to be running around, and not only are you taking care of your newborn, but you're also taking care of your toddler. So you're very active. You're way more active the second time around during the pregnancy and after the pregnancy than you were previously. So that to me, I think is one of the reasons. And then the second reason too, I think our body kind of just gets it. You know, it's not the first time that it gained that much weight and lost that much weight. So maybe it just knows how to get back to normal a little bit faster. I don't know. That's just me thinking out loud what the reasons could be here for us losing weight a little bit faster. With that being said, I still have 5 pounds to lose. I'm 4 months postpartum right now. I am definitely not complaining. If anything, honestly, I don't even know if I want to lose the last 5 pounds. It's more about not the number on the scale that bothers me right now, but that little pouch. And when I say bothers me, it shouldn't bother me, but you know, it's still I still have that elevated pouch, which makes sense because I did just give birth about 4 months ago. So I still do have to lose a little bit of that inflammation that I have around my stomach area. But I'm totally okay with my weight right now. I would be totally happy with keeping the same weight, but just losing the pouch a little bit. Just giving myself grace, and I hope you do too, because the first couple of months or more are very hard, and it's a big adjustment no matter what. Even if it's your second, you've done it before, it's still very different because it is another human being and they require different attention and they have different needs. So give yourself some grace. Now that I've had both a VBAC and a C-section, if I was to get pregnant again in the future, I honestly would be okay with either. I think that it's important for us to be open-minded and let our bodies kind of decide what's best for us. I went into my second pregnancy with that mindset, and obviously my goal was to have a VBAC because one, I honestly just wanted to experience it. And but I also was very open-minded to having another C-section again. I knew that was a very big possibility since I already had one the first time around, and I was totally okay with it because like I mentioned in this video, I had a very positive C-section experience too. So if I was to have it again, that would be totally okay because at the end of the day, the goal is for you and your baby to be healthy. So I think that's the most important thing to keep in mind here. I honestly wouldn't go one way more than the other. It was very cool to have the VBAC and experience that and know what that's like. I would be totally open to doing that again if my body would allow it. And if not, I would totally be happy having another C-section too. And that is the honest truth. You know, there's really no right or wrong here. I had very emotional experiences with both, very positive emotional experiences with both. I had a beautiful bonding moment with both my sons, with both birthing experiences. So yes, it can be done. Do not worry. Go into it just with a positive mindset and with an open mind, and you will be okay. I hope this video was helpful. And if it was, don't forget to give it a like. It truly helps my channel so much. It shows other moms that you found this video helpful and maybe they can too. With that, I'll end the video here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.